Welcome to Guru Tattva Drishti, verse 76 onwards. In the last session, we ended at that recognition that in order to realize the inner Guru Tattva relationship, one's search must be authentic. Only in an authentic search can the true purpose of waking, dream and sleep consciousness be realized. And you remember the purpose? It is a reminder for Turiya to look inwards towards itself. When Turiya turns inwards, it relaxes, it rests, it collapses into itself, and Turiyatita is realized. One cannot recognize one's true nature with a lukewarm interest in the spiritual path. If you treat it like Sunday school, it won't work. You will keep slipping off. It must be an immersive experience, constantly immersing yourself in the knowledge of what am I or who am I. No other knowledge. This is the only priority. And then I'm attempting self-inquiry to actually see who am I or what am I. Not relying blindly on what is written in the book, not relying blindly on what Ekta is saying, but actually utilizing self-insight, self-inquiry, self-investigation. This is non-negotiable. One must keep experimenting either with Swapna Nidra Jnana Sadhana or with Samadhi or with both. Until when? Until you reach a point where this wisdom emerges naturally from within. The natural emergence from within is called self-insight. Now this is what verse 76 will dive into deeper. Verse 76. As the seeking wave manifests, the waking consciousness assumes the role of a wisdom seeker. The disciple consciousness is ignited and the Vidya aspect awakens. I'll stop there. There is the seeking. That constant seeking wave is what manifests this waking consciousness. And this waking consciousness is nothing but the role of a wisdom seeker only in the waking consciousness. Why? Because now I have turned inwards and now I want to seek that wisdom. But I don't know better than the waking. So I restrict my seeking to the waking. And the waking consciousness itself is assuming the role of a wisdom seeker. Now, in this waking consciousness itself, the principle of being a disciple is ignited. The disciple consciousness is ignited. Basically, that wisdom aspect which is innate to me, that kind of sends a spark in the direction of the waking consciousness. And the waking consciousness, which was initially just busy in people, situations, things, the external experience, now suddenly is interested in something higher. That is called the awakening of the Vidya aspect. That initiates a little rectification of a mistake that one was making. I was considering myself to be something else, and suddenly I see myself as something else. That is what is the last paragraph of verse 76. The disciple consciousness is ignited and the Vidya aspect awakens. And what does that do? That initiates the rectification of the error of mistaking oneself as something other than the self. This is also called superimposition. Basically, I recognize that I am that witnessing awareness field And just because this weaker body-mind complex seems stronger, has a name, has a form, it dominated the stage. And in that little turning inwards and the awakening of the Vidya aspect, in that little moment, a shift happened where I recognize myself as that which is knowingness, the field of knowingness around this weaker. And that recognition itself gives me the understanding that there was superimposition happening here. This weaker, which was dominating the stage, was really superimposing on that invisible field of knowingness that I am. Okay? So waking consciousness becomes a wisdom seeker here. Yeah? Do you see that? The search for wisdom propels an inward turning, and that inward turning awakens the Vidya aspect of the disciple consciousness. And this Vidya aspect is special. It attempts to override the avidya aspect. We discussed about the avidya aspect in the previous session. Yeah. Avidya is ignorance, and Vidya is wisdom. So the wisdom aspect tends to now wipe away or override the ignorance aspect. Just like you have an internal Vidya aspect, you also have an internal avidya aspect, ignorance aspect. Very important to recognize that. When I am consumed in the external illusion, that is the time the avidya aspect is activated and operating forcefully. And that is when I have an opportunity to zoom out immediately and recognize the avidya was superimposing on the vidya. The ignorance was superimposing on the wisdom. As you dive deeper into this inquiry, you will see Vidya attempts to erase avidya. Avidya is nothing but the superimposition. All these superimpositions get wiped away slowly. What are those superimpositions that we are talking about here? That is explained in verse 77. Verse 77, pure consciousness is superimposed by Turiya consciousness. Turiya consciousness is superimposed by waking, dream and deep sleep consciousness. And waking consciousness is superimposed by the disciple arising. So you start seeing in this moment, oh, see, right now I can recognize there is this disciple arising, that which is seeking to know the truth. That is nothing but either a thought or a feeling. And I recognize that very clearly from its questioning, from its seeking, from its interest in knowing who or what it is. So it is a disciple arising, basically that which is seeking the wisdom. Now that is superimposing on something. Look beyond what is there. It is the waker, that which has assumed that I want to know the answer to this question. So that waker in the waking world is together the waking consciousness. Now look one level deeper. What is this waker superimposing on? The waker is superimposing on the Turiya consciousness, that which is knowing the waker. Turiya consciousness is invisible, and this waker has a name and form so solid. So the solid gross projection is superimposing on that which is that subtle knowingness. Now go one more level deeper. Can you zoom out to the knowingness, to the awareness, that which is aware of this waker? When you zoom out there, then you will recognize there is a calmness there, a peace there, a quietness. In that quietness, the I sense tends to dissolve and disappear. And when that dissolves and disappears, you recognize, oh, Turiya was superimposing on pure consciousness. So these are the layers of superimposition, which are very important to be seen. And you see these only when you get to the level of disciple consciousness. So before we move ahead, very important to ask yourself, do I recognize this? Am I able to see this? Is there an understanding of the layers of superimposition which have been projected by the avidya aspect, the ignorance aspect? In reality, there is no superimposition. Basically, in reality, there is no snake. The snake is only imagination. In reality, there is only the rope. Similarly, all these layers of superimposition are simply the snake. In reality, there is only the consciousness. And consciousness is seemingly playing a game with itself. The disciple arising is actually a question. The disciple arising is a question that arises from that inner Atma Vasana seeking. We did Atma Vasana in the previous session. That external disciple arising is a question. And that question operates only at the waking level. The questioner is beyond. Yes. The Turiya level is the projector. Means Turiya is the questioner. And what it has projected, that is the question. The question appears here at the waking level. The questioner is unseen, because this waking level is superimposing on that which is subtle, which is nameless and formless. So here we start understanding what is the mechanism of wisdom transmission here. The mechanism of wisdom transmission, it begins operating once an earnest question is projected. Without an earnest question, wisdom transmission does not happen. That is what verse 78 is saying. To promote wisdom transmission for self-realization, Turiya projects waking consciousness as the perception of sight and sound of an external guru. Thus, guru consciousness as part of the waking world is sparked. Wisdom waves to overcome superimposition appear and fade. So let's attempt to understand 78. For this wisdom transmission to happen, first Turiya projects the question. And that question appears as a disciple arising. Basically, a thirst in you happens automatically. It comes from nothingness. You did not know before the thirst arose that this yearning will arise now. So it arose from nobodiness, from nothingness. I did not know about it, hence I cannot claim to be the thinker of this thought. This disciple arising, or the thought or the feeling appears. It has been projected. It has been projected from where? From the Turiya level. So just like Turiya projects the question, Turiya also projects the waking consciousness in the form of sight and sound of an external guru to give the answer. Remember, this is the disciple arising that says that I want an answer from a book. Then the book is the guru. It projects that I want an answer from a human being. Then it projects a human being, a priest, a temple pujari, somebody who can give you some kind of answer, some kind of little spark to turn inwards. That is the real external guru. That is the meaning of the guru consciousness is taspat. Means the answer is projected through the sound or the words of the guru consciousness. Guru consciousness is nothing but the external guru wave identified with by Turiya consciousness, that is equal to guru consciousness. So now the guru consciousness is taspat, means the answer is projected. Remember, Turiya projects the question, Turiya projects the answer. That is why I say there is no external guru here. The wisdom arises from nothingness and it just appears to be conveyed through an external entity. For example, right now it is being conveyed through this instrument called the body-mind. This body-mind is only empty like a flute. Only when it's empty can that air pass through and make those beautiful musical sounds. That wisdom that is appearing actually out of nothingness. That is why I say there is no external guru. In fact, there is no external disciple even. Because that question also has been projected from beyond, no? You didn't even know that this question is there. So there is no external disciple, there is no external guru. It just appears to be conveyed through some medium. But this medium is impermanent. And wisdom cannot belong to that which is impermanent. Wisdom must belong only to that which is permanent. That which lies beyond. The Guru Tattva is the wisdom giver. This is what is realized directly by seeing that the question arises from nothingness. Before it arose, I didn't know that this question is going to arise. Similarly, the answer also appears from nothingness. If you cannot see the answer because it is coming from a book or coming from an external guru, many times your own thoughts come up like answers. They arise from nothingness. They fade into nothingness. You cannot claim that I came up with the answer. Just like the question is, the answer is. There is no thinker of the question. There is no thinker of the answer. Everything belongs to that nothingness. And you know that nothingness is not a deadness, but an alive emptiness. That which is beyond all the answers. Now, verse 79 explains this in detail. Guru consciousness relentlessly and ceaselessly reminds the disciple consciousness that its reality lies beyond all waking waves, pretending to be names and forms, including that of an external guru. So, the only real guru in the external waking world is that which points again and again towards the inner Guru Tattva. He reminds you that that inner Guru Tattva is beyond name and form. So don't get stuck in the name and form of this waker. Don't get stuck in the name and form of this mentor, this teacher, this Advaitin. So that nothingness lies beyond all names and forms. And the truth is, there is always something from within telling you this. Do you recognize that? Yeah, from within, there is always a doubt when you hear an external guru. Do you recognize that? That is the resistance from the ego to listen to the other. The reality is that the resistance arises from that corner within you that already knows that this is all an illusion, including that guru. In fact, the division, the separation, the duality of I and you itself is an illusion. When I am an illusion, who is listening? When that guru is an illusion, who is speaking? There is no I, there is no you. This recognition gets you out of your wrong understanding, that which you've created out of blind belief or blind faith. Yeah. Those who are stuck in that blind belief and blind faith call this, oh no I, no you, no guru, no disciple, call this all lack of faith. Yeah, the ignorant translate this as lack of faith. But in reality, it is self-conviction. It is self-conviction. Start seeing that I am that which is beyond this name and form that addresses itself as the I. It's a conviction in who I truly am. So if you look within and realize, you will not have this resistance when you attempt to see the guru is here and the disciple is here. You will have accepted this entire waking world as an illusion, including the idea of an external guru or external teacher. This is an internal signal that is coming from within. And when this signal is received, that is called a guru-disciple relationship. That is the second paragraph of verse 79. This reminder of consciousness to itself signifies the true guru-disciple relationship. It is something that needs to be directly seen by turning inwards. When you turn inwards, you will notice there is no resistance, there is no restlessness, there is no fear. And that's when you are with that internal guru. This means you are conceding to that internal signal. When it becomes evident that all waking arisings are merely turiya, reminding itself that I lie beyond the waking, then you have actually started strengthening that inner guru and shishya relationship. So verses 80 and 81 describe the same waking state guru-shishya relationship similarly in dream and deep sleep. Verse 80. Turiya projects waves of dream consciousness. Wisdom waves appear and fade as dream sight and sound. Turiya ceaselessly reminds itself that it lies beyond all dream names and forms. So it is Turiya only projecting waves of dream consciousness, and wisdom waves appear because now the disciple arising has appeared. So there is wisdom appearing and fading away as dream sight and sound. That's when you suddenly recognize in your Swapna Nidra Jnana Sadhana, oh, I am witnessing a dream. This is not really happening. That wisdom has suddenly arisen. It arises like a wave, appears, and then it fades away. Yeah? What does that wisdom mean? Turiya is reminding itself that I lie beyond this dream, name and form that you were getting stuck in. The moment the witnessing happened, it is Turiya reminding itself, look beyond, look beyond. You don't really have to be a strong practitioner of Swapna Nidra Jnana Sadhana. Even normally you can recognize sometimes that in a dream I am dreaming, and there is the collapse of the dream. The dream collapses as an indication that illusion or the magic trick cannot continue once it is known. Its charm is broken, basically. So you're not anymore caught up in that imagination. Similarly, verse 81 speaks about deep sleep. Turiya projects waves of deep sleep consciousness. The jnana waves or the wisdom waves appear and fade as the silent background of all perceptions. Turiya ceaselessly reminds itself that it lies beyond the deep sleep silence. So the summary of 79, 80 and 81 is that Turiya lies beyond all names and forms, whether it is the presence of names and forms or the absence of names and forms. It is still the same. The attraction is to either the name and form or the absence of the name and form. It is one and the same. Turiya is nameless and formless. It is not an aversion, remember. Deep sleep is an aversion to waking names and forms and dream names and forms. But Turiya is the nameless and formless knowingness field that knows both the presence as well as the absence. Only the nameless and formless can recognize itself. Name and form cannot recognize namelessness and formlessness. Do you see that? That is not a possibility. Yes, it is beyond the limitation of name and form to recognize namelessness and formlessness. This is exactly what verse 82 is explaining to us. Only knowledge can annihilate the lack of knowledge. Clear? Only knowledge can annihilate, means remove the lack of knowledge. If a puzzle piece is missing, you have to look for that exact puzzle piece. If between two aspects, one middle aspect is missing, you have to look for exactly that. So, if there is knowledge here, but a piece is missing in the middle, it can be filled only with knowledge. Only light can eradicate darkness. Only the one that has forgotten can remember oneself. This means the locus must be one and the same. This is what verse 82 say. The locus must be one and the same. That is why there cannot be an external guru, as the outer cannot exist without the inner. What is the meaning of inner here? The inner Turiya projects the waking dream and deep sleep. No? The outer cannot exist without the inner. So, if I have forgotten my childhood memory, can you or someone else remember it for me? No, I have forgotten. So only I have the ability to remember what I have forgotten. Nobody else can fill that gap for me. Others who know about that childhood story can describe it to me, but the remembrance part, that exact scene and the exact aha moment. Yes, I got it. That scene must flash in my mind. Your words cannot be a substitute for the flash of the scene in my mind. Is that clear? Only my knowledge can annihilate my lack of knowledge. The puzzle piece that is missing in my mind must be filled by the knowledge that I can fit in. Yeah. Only light can eradicate that darkness. That is the meaning of the locus must be one and the same. And this is the main reason why there cannot be an external guru. The outer cannot be without the inner. It is not the other way around. The inner has projected the outer. Remember, the inner is the truth. The outer is the lie. The outer is that dream tiger, dream butterfly, or this beautiful waking dream world. The outer is a lie, and that lie must be renounced. This is what verse 83 explains. Verse 83. The inner is the reality. The outer is merely an illusion, an illusory name and form, to be washed away like soap after task completion. If the outer illusory guru doesn't disappear, gather the courage to discard and go beyond. Now, what does this mean? The moment I recognize that the projection is inside out, so that which is being projected outside is an illusion, now is the time to turn away from that illusion. This doesn't mean you have to renounce your spouse, your children, your house, your money, your car, even your external guru and run away to the Himalayas. No, the Himalayas also are limited to the waking. Do you recognize that? You'll only be going from one illusion to another illusion. So discarding does not mean running away. Discarding here means simply turning inward towards that which lasts beyond the waking. Name and form are limited to the waking. Namelessness and formlessness is that which is beyond. Now, simply turn towards that. That's it. That is the meaning of discard and go beyond. Hopefully verse 83 is clear. The same thing extends to the dream. So verse 84 says, without the courage to abandon the waking names and forms, the beyond can never be realized. And without the strength to abandon the dream names and forms, the beyond can never be realized. Now, I'm ready to let go of the dream names and forms. So easily I dismiss it. But the waking is where I get enamored, I get captivated, I get attached. So looking at waking as not different from the dream is essential here. This is where Swapna Nidra Jnana Sadhana will help you. So if you've not begun your practice yet, now is the time. Very important that every point is realized both in the waking and in the dream. And I need to have the strength to abandon. Now verse 85 speaks about abandoning the deep sleep illusion. The absence of names and forms is also an illusion that captivates you equally as the presence of names and forms. Do you see that? Not only does work, family, friendship, spiritual texts, etc., in the waking captivate me, but even the deep sleep conditioning of I am absent, that also captivates me. That's also got me trapped in it. Why? Because I believe I am the waker that lies down to sleep, and it is the waker that is in deep sleep. The waker has become the deep sleeper. Yeah? That is the underlying conditioning. Yeah? So recognize, if you believe it that way, it is only an aversion to the waking forms, to the dream forms, that these did not provide fulfillment. Therefore, I'm done with this. I need to rest. Clear? So deep sleep is also an illusion which must be abandoned. So this brings us to the understanding that both craving and aversion must be abandoned. And how? With courage. Abandoned here does not mean running away. Abandoning here means turning inwards after recognizing that the waking dream and deep sleep operate of their own accord without my support. Turiya recognizes the waker, the dreamer, the deep sleeper. This recognition, this witnessing needs to be strengthened in all three states. And when it is strengthened, automatically there is a realization, oh, there is a fourth state. An interest develops in the fourth. An interest develops in turning within. And that itself is the abandoning of the waking, the dreaming and deep sleep. Again, abandoning doesn't mean you will not be in the waking or not be in the dream or not be in the deep sleep. No. The script is going to continue. That is not going to resolve until the seeds, the karmic seeds, are all exhausted. Yeah, so verse 85 speaks about the fortitude to abandon the peace of deep sleep. Yeah, because it's not really a peace, it is mostly an aversion to the names and forms. Let's read verse 85. Without the fortitude to abandon the peace of the deep sleep, absence of names and forms, the beyond can never be realized. So here we saw that the most important thing again is that your spiritual search should be earnest, should be sincere. And then only are you going to gather the courage to abandon all the charming temptations of waking, dream, deep sleep and turn inwards, right? When you turn in, you recognize you are not the waker, you are not the dreamer, you are not the deep sleeper. You are something beyond. And when you see that you are something beyond, you realize there cannot be an external guru because there is no external disciple. Yeah, there is no I, which automatically collapses the idea of a you. I and you are born together. Do you recognize this? Yeah, and they collapse together. You'll soon become aware of higher levels of knowledge. You'll start seeing it's only perception of sight and sound that I call a family member. And this particular family member is operating only on the borrowed consciousness, whatever my desire or aversion has projected. And that projection of the desire or aversion has imparted only so much energy, like your phone has only so much charge. It can only run that much. Like that only this name and form can run only that much. At the end of the waking state, this disappears. Then you realize it's not conscious enough, alive enough to continue permanently of its own accord. It borrows consciousness from something beyond, from the inner. It runs only that much as the borrowed consciousness works. Like the phone borrows electric current from the power outlet, and it can run only that much. Similarly, this name and form, this particular object, this particular situation, it can run only that much. Then you start turning away from that which is unconscious of its own accord. Turn naturally towards that which it is borrowing energy from, the consciousness. That's where you often find the relationship between the true Guru and the true Shishya. And that is what verse 86 elaborates on, saying consciousness itself is the Guru and consciousness itself is the disciple. This relationship of consciousness with itself is known as the true and only Guru-disciple relationship. This is very important for a spiritual seeker on the path of Vichara Marg. Vichara is self-inquiry, because he recognizes that consciousness itself is teaching itself. And how do I know this? Because whenever I ask a question, I actually already know the answer. Most of the times I'm either looking for a validation outside or a confirmation, a reassurance. I am looking for you to say that answer which I already know. I have projected you and I have projected that answer as well that comes from you. Start recognizing that. That is when you will see, oh, the Guru is within, the disciple is within. Consciousness itself is the Guru, consciousness itself is the disciple. It is teaching itself. And this relationship is the Guru-disciple relationship. And it's internal. Okay. So that completes the chapter, and that completes the semester as well. We will do a few self-explorations after this, and then we will go into exam session. So start preparing, start completing your journals, and if you have any questions on this particular session's pointers, please feel free to ask the questions in the Flock channel. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.